Welcome to the Pathways to Profitability podcast, personal tales of business success, where we hear local business owners' personal stories of their trials and tribulations that got them to where they are today. Here's your host, Cheryl Mucha, CEO of CFO Your Way.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today, our guest is Melissa Lemke from Human Ability Designs. I am super excited to have her here on the podcast because her business is so unique and so interesting. Melissa, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. Excited to talk with you today.
So let's jump right in and tell our audience about Human Ability Designs. And I want to get into human factors engineering and your background. So just kind of give us an overview to give the audience a little bit of a taste of what you're all about.
All right. Well, I love that you're interested in what I love. I'm really passionate about human factors engineering. So Human Ability Designs, I founded the company and started out really focused on, hence the name, designs for human abilities. My background, I'm a biomedical engineer, so I spent my undergraduate studies and graduate studies looking at human performance and biomechanics, how the body moves, and then rehabilitation biosystems, looking at basically people with disabilities. And I have a passion for good design and design that fits human abilities. The reason I got into my career is my brother has a high-level spinal cord injury. He was injured when I was in undergraduate studies, and I switched to biomedical engineering. And early on, I saw really the struggles that he was going to have and how design could either foster his independence and abilities or really inhibit his independence in life. So kind of came into my career really because of his injury and seeing his needs, and that just fostered a passion and a love for good design. My undergraduate, I also did universal design. So I looked at how does the environment fit people with disabilities and different types of disabilities. So that's kind of the edge that I come into human factors. Human factors is applied to all different types of industries. I focus in medical. And so where that was born, obviously biomedical engineering, but with my brother, I'm a lay caregiver. And what that means is I was early on. So my brother was injured in 1999. So I was early on, pretty young, thrown into being a caregiver and trying to figure out.
It's beautiful, though, that you took that role for him and were there for him and then built a career around it. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, the field of lay caregiving, it's really an industry now, but it's really grown. And I think all of us are touched in some way or another, caring for a loved one or a friend or ourselves at some time. And the slant with medical is, you know, our family and my brother and myself as the caregiver, we were put into some scary situations, I would say. And that further fostered my passion to say, hey, we can be doing better with design. And we should be doing better with design of medical products. A, they're going into the home more, but B, if we think about the healthcare industry and healthcare practice of medicine, it's very dangerous. There's, you know, high stress situations, a lot of decisions are being made, and how we design our products are really going to make a difference in usability. So if people like what our products and like using them, but also safety. And that's really what I focus on with human factors for medical products. Thankfully, it's a regulated industry, so there's regulations that I actually have grown up with in the industry. It's a relatively new regulated industry, but it's still been around about 10 years, the regulations in the US, and the regulations around the world are growing. Thankfully, again, because we're focused on safety and the practice of medicine with these designs that we're creating.
Yeah, there's so many factors. It's the safety, it's the usability, it's the the education even to
Training,
yeah,
absolutely. The
training and
training, the
education.
instructions.
Yeah, and every individual that has a need for a device, or
Yeah,
everyone is unique.
interestingly, so I am a human factors engineer and biomedical engineer, and so it's an engineering discipline how I approach the science. And interestingly, I'll say that it's one of the hardest engineering disciplines working with people because of exactly that variability that people bring to our system. And we have people's abilities, we have the different environments that they're working in. Sometimes they're optimal, a lot of times they're not, right? And so all these factors are going to play into how people are coming to our products, medical products, even emotions, right? So and this actually happened to me, a personal story. I'm a cancer survivor. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had to do home health care. Again, relatively early. I was 27 years old, early in my career. But I remember being mad because I knew that it could be better, how my training was given to me. And I was being told to go home and give this medicine to myself several times a week independently. It was scary. I didn't know what I was doing. And the training was just, kind of insulting, knowing that, again, that it could be done better.
Right. And you have a little, at that point, you had that background. So imagine the general population that has no idea, and they're sent home and
Yep. And also advocacy. So I also come to this profession as really a patient advocate, I would say, and user advocate, again, with the personal situations and the passion that I bring. I spoke up and I said, I'm not comfortable going home yet, but there's a lot of people during our testing, they'll say, oh, I believe the doctor and whatever they say, or, oh, I don't ask questions. They know what they're doing. And, they're telling me so exactly. The patients and end users may be more hands-off than I was during that time because of my background.
And they don't know what questions to ask.
Exactly. So I remember one of the questions was, so do you have any questions? Is there anything you don't know? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
I don't know what I don't know, right? You tell me.
Yep. And to the nurses' defense, they were doing their best. But that was an instance where, again, I just had that personal experience where it was like, we have to be doing better. And this is what human factors is all about. Bringing in those end users during the design process, involving them, and really verifying the things that you're assuming about your end users, designing to their variability, and especially those high-risk situations. If someone doesn't pick up the training that you've presented to them, what's going to happen when they get home? What are the helplines, or what are the helps that they have so that people remain safe and patients get the health care they need?
So how long have you been in business on your own?
So my company has been in business for about 10 years, but I've been in the industry for 17 and going on 18. And I started out in academic research, and then I went into consulting. And I bridge the two now because I think, human factors is a science, and I think it's important to continue to add to the science. And it's challenging in medical because it's an industry-based science. And so there's a lot of, proprietary information and the like that's involved in human factors studies. But so I think it's important to bridge academic and industry, basically. So I like to do both. And now I'm actually focusing, so I've been a practitioner all this time, developing the study protocols and implementing the studies, and I've worked with hundreds of clients to submit to regulatory authorities, and they've all been approved within their human factors submissions. So now I'm focused on really helping like I said, the industry is relatively new, but it's booming as far as the number of medical products being developed, the requirements around human factors. And so now I'm more focused on supporting clients with their submissions and programs and their growing teams, because there's a lot of new talent coming into the industry. And the application of human factors in medical, it's a very wide and deep science. And there's basically every client's goal is to get a good product on the market. And Human Ability Designs, we support our clients in that, helping them do the best human factors possible. There's different constraints, timelines, budgets, where you are in the process and the like, but ultimately, given the importance of the science, we work with clients to do the absolute best at the time they come to us.
Right. So I just want to go back a little bit to kind of touch on the, so you're in the industry 17, 18 years, you start your business 10 years ago. What was the catalyst for starting your own business? What was the catalyst for leaving the career that you had and were building and moving, taking that sometimes scary leap into owning your own business?
Yeah, definitely a scary leap. So I started the company basically to get into consulting. So I took that leap from full-time academic position, and I started out consulting and collaborating with some consultants that have been around in the industry, and basically loved the profession of practicing human factors. And so I had my company and really focused on growing another practice that I was a partner in, and did academic research. And now the past 2 years, I've been growing Human Ability Designs again and working on that rebranding to fill the industry need now. But when I started the company, it was really to get into, I love the fast pace of the medical device industry. It takes a long time to get products to market, but there's a lot that has to be done along the way. And versus academia, the research tends to be more longer term timelines and the like. So I was really looking to get into industry, and ultimately with the goal of making medical devices to start with more accessible. And that really led into my passion for human factors, the regulated part of medical devices and the like.
Perfect. So you've been in business 10 years, you're growing, you're pivoting, and I'm sure, you know, we always talk about pandemic and the need to pivot for that. But how, you know, obviously you're very successful, but how do you define that business success?
Yeah, so how I define business success ultimately is it comes down to client success. And so that really maps to submission success, or, you know, what goal they come to, growing their team, growing the knowledge, skills, and expertise within the company's human factors team, developing a process. So really, you know, a successful outcome from the client. Most often that submission success, which is a huge hurdle to get a product on the market here or outside the US. Also, I focus a lot on my team and the team feeling that company culture of the good work-life balance, and that they're contributing to a science. So again, this is a scientific field. So you know, my team, I'm looking for that continuous improvement and fostering that as well. So, so that's really how I define success. And then obviously you have your typical business metrics. Right. In business, we have to have, you know, money in order to give back and foster that team. So, you know, we have metrics like that. But ultimately, given my passion and really desire to see good design, it really trickles back to knowing that we did the best human factors possible. Right. And we had a sound program. We built a good case, and we have good evidence to submit to the regulatory authorities in their review.
Great. So you brought up the next topic I wanted to talk about, which is work-life balance. So you're a mom, you have young children. How do you find that balance between, you know, building the company and dedicating the time that's needed for your career and giving your family what they need?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning process. I think that so I went to Marquette University, and I'm very passionate about being the difference, doing big things in our world and giving back and helping others and helping the industry and the like. So I can very easily get caught up in the momentum of the career I love. And I have done that. But I have 3 young children. They basically keep me on my toes, and my family is the most important thing to me. So I feel like I've evolved, especially in the pandemic. I paused my focus of my career. I didn't stop working altogether, but I definitely paused that momentum building for a while to be with my children. And I value that so much that, again, they kind of force it upon me. So I love reading with them, and that nice break. We love doing activities together, and I had them home with me, so I learned a lot more activities to do with 3 young children. But I think definitely family. Also, I've worked from home for a long time, even before the pandemic, and I learned a while ago the importance of setting up those rules and boundaries, being intentional about no screen time, and really, my husband and I keep each other in check with that as well, because it can easily, when you love your work, you can easily be in your office all the time, but also just understanding the importance of work-life balance. So prioritizing it, and then creating those rules and having checks and balances, basically.
Yeah, and for us as business owners to have the drive to move forward, we need that time to step away.
Absolutely. I think that downtime allows us to really see out instead of constantly getting caught up in the day-to-day, which as a business owner can change a million times in a day what the priority is. So
and then you mentioned your lovely dog as your work partner, so I'm sure that gives you comfort in that chance to break and look away from the screen at certain points during the day.
Yeah.
So
he also keeps me on my toes. He's a mini schnauzer, so he gets vocal if he gets bored. So he's kind of that proponent or propellant to walking and getting outside. And so I live in Michigan, so even during the pandemic, I bought an extra warm coat and, got outside even more, because being home extra the past couple years, I think, again, that importance of just having that break and getting outside and looking out in the trees and in the sky, and really thinking about, outside of the day-to-day is really important.
Right. Those breaks are important. What do you do, if you find yourself off track, or just you get so stuck in, in the weeds, I like to say, because you're just so super focused, and you don't take that chance to kind of step away and look back. What is your go-to to make that break?
Yeah, typically, my husband and I like to schedule in, we kind of anticipate these periods, right? So we like to schedule in quarterly times away, and just, weekends away, and we have the kids with us. So it's not necessarily a vacation, but a change of environment, change of scenery, change of routine. We all get into our routines, but I think sometimes it's important to kind of re-engage the brain and try something different. So it's really for me, a lot of it's the environment. So just getting, going and visiting family, or we did Airbnb a lot, getting away on a weekend trip. Outside time really breaks that perpetual
leaving
cycle.
all those electronics at home, right?
Absolutely.
Turn it off and step away. We need it.
Definitely.
So is there anything else you would like to share with our audience? Anything come to mind? I love that you shared your very personal story about, your health and your brother's situation. Is there anything else that maybe had an influence on you or your company and the path that you're on?
Yeah, I think that, so first I'll say kind of, again, this advocacy role I encourage people as patients or healthcare professionals, if that's your profession, or you're seeing yourself as a lay caregiver, to really use your voice and speak up. There's reporting systems. There's ways to let manufacturers know about experiences, because I think that the patient or the end user's voice is so important. There's opportunities to be involved in research. So I do encourage that, because I think The more voices that we hear, and if it's from either the manufacturer or designers reaching out, or patients and users kind of forcing their voices in, I think it's helpful to the profession and ultimately having the best healthcare system here in the United States and in the world, across the world. And then also I reflected a lot thinking about this on, how did I really get to this point in my industry? And I've had a lot of mentorship, and through volunteering with standards development, like I mentioned, grew up with the industry, but I encourage people, as you're kind of stepping out and developing your business or thinking about it, or even if you're earlier in your career and in your first position, that you really take in everything you can with every opportunity. I didn't get here overnight, and I didn't get here by chance, I don't think. All the situations that I was involved with growing up, and then through schooling and early in my career, different positions, just putting all that together, I think is an opportunity. And I was fortunate to really grow up with, I call them the grandfathers of the industry. But like I said, my industry, human factors for medical, is changing. And I think a lot of that is going on with a lot of different professions. And so wherever you are, I encourage you to kind of step up and see what differences you can make, thinking outside of the box, and really remembering those end reasons why you are doing what you're doing. Right. No matter what it is, what career you're in, we all have an important role.
Yeah. And we all have a voice, and we all have ideas, and it's not going to go anywhere if it kind of stays in our heads. So why
Correct.
not share that and contribute? I mean, not every idea is going to come to fruition necessarily, but a piece of that idea can affect something else that's in the works, or something else that someone else is working on. So I agree 100%. Our voices are all so strong and loud, and we really need to use it and share it.
Yep. And that vulnerable, sometimes it's scary, especially if you're in a room with all these people that have been doing something, but sometimes those are the best ideas. That's a lot of times why I like working with students, because they have all these great ideas. They don't know the boundaries, and that's great.
Right.
That's excellent.
Right. And, we all bring our own life experiences to the table.
Definitely.
So how can our audience, obviously all your contact information is going to be in the show notes, but some people will also be just listening to this. So share with us how our audience can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so my email, melissa@humanabilitydesigns.com. My phone number is on my website. So phone, email, would love to have a conversation. I'm also on LinkedIn. And I'm super excited. I've got some new research coming out. If anybody is in the medical device, human factors industry, I've got a collaborative grant from FDA. So that we're going to be collecting some data soon. So stay tuned for that. But ultimately, would love to talk with people over the phone. Email, LinkedIn are the best ways to get in touch.
I am going to actually get you in touch with my niece, who is a biomedical engineer, a recent graduated. She's actually finishing her second degree this month. So
congratulations!
Super, super intelligent young lady, has a really bright future. So I would love to put you in contact with her, even just to have a very interesting conversation.
Definitely, yeah. And with biomedical engineering, there's so many places to go. It's such an exciting field. So I would love to talk with your niece.
I'm going to make that connection. So thank you so much, Melissa, for being here and sharing your story. I love learning about entrepreneurs and their journey, and what makes them, excited about the industry that they're in, and about, creating a future. So
thank you again for having me, Cheryl. It's been a pleasure.
So thank you all for tuning in today. I'm really excited about, our guests and the different information and stories that are being shared through this podcast. Be sure to subscribe and stay connected to get notified of all our future events. a future episode, of Pathways to Profitability podcast. Be well and have a great day.
That's it for today's episode of Pathways to Profitability. Remember to ask yourself, where can I pay my success forward today?